Hello and welcome to ProtoMet's First Impressions, where I give my thoughts on the first episode of any new tokusatsu show. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the first episode of Kamen Rider Saber. Now, before we get into anything, I just want to comment on something that popped up immediately as the episode started, and that would be whom I'm guessing is the show's narrator. He has a quite colorful outfit and has bright green hair and looks like he came straight out of Super Sentai. I'm not going to lie. I saw this guy and I was like, wait, this is Kamen Rider, not Super Sentai. What? He looks like a character that would be in a season of Super Sentai. And that's kind of something that I feel about quite a bit of this first episode. A lot of it feels like it comes out of Super Sentai. It doesn't quite have the heaviness or the realness or the seriousness that the Kamen Rider series seems to be more known for. That having been said, I'm not immediately knocking it. We've had quite a few serious seasons recently, and I was a little disappointed that the last season turned out to be as serious as it was, given that when I gave my first impressions on that, I had hoped that it would be a much sillier season. And it was a bit silly, and so as a result, I'm a bit hesitant to be hopeful that this season will be sillier. But the first episode has kind of already set the bar as being a little bit silly. So we get the narrator who's explaining the past. Apparently there's some ancient war between two sides occurring within the world of books or something. Apparently books are... I guess I didn't fully understand what was trying to be said. From what I'm guessing, I'm assuming that the state of books are how the world is reflected. Like, if books become corrupted, so too does the world, the real world. Or, that's what I'm operating under the assumption of. I don't really know for certain, but that's probably going to be delved into more detail further on down the line. So, kind of waiting for that. Then the episode proper starts, and we get basically an exposition dump showing what we can assume is the main character having flashbacks to some incident that occurred sometime earlier. Some girl he failed to save because his pinky just wasn't strong enough. Seriously, why were you holding on to the girl by just a pinky? What's up with that? Were you two in the middle of doing a pinky swear? Is that what was going on when this all happened? Maybe? He can't hold on to her because he's holding on to her pinky. She gets sucked into a black hole or whatever, and then some guy with a sword comes in and saves him, and then the main character wakes up and acts as though that whole exposition bit was just a dream, and not, his backstory, which... Now the audience is fully aware. This is this character's backstory, and the show is just kind of ignoring that fact. I'll let it slide because the character is right away established as being a writer. So from a certain perspective, you can kind of understand why he's a bit dismissive of it, since as a writer he clearly has quite a bit of imagination. We also end up learning that he runs a bookstore in which he reads to children, which, fantastic character. His editor, however, needs him to be finished with the manuscript for that month's novel, because though the manuscript is due the next day, she has plans with her friends the next day, so she wants the manuscript now. But first, our lead character, Toma, has something he needs to do, and so he goes off to deliver a book to a little boy, And that's when the bad guys decide to strike. Apparently they're trying to rewrite history or something. There's like some mechanism that's automatically writing in like 2 books at once that we see. And somehow a portion of the city gets transported to another world via a giant book thing. It's weird, but very imaginative. I'm not gonna lie. I do like the idea of it. It's probably not going to be used very often, as much as I would honestly really like it to, but that's kind of the nature of these tokusatsu shows. Sometimes they'll start off with like really flashy visual effect portions and then just kind of slowly get rid of those and just focus on all the live action bits that are much more practical to film. I kind of get it, budgetary reasons and whatnot, but it does kind of feel a bit disappointing to suddenly remember, oh right, there was actually cooler stuff early on that you guys just stopped using. I'm looking directly at you, Kamen Rider Ghost, even though you're nowhere near me. And Kiba, I'm watching you. Dano, you're cool. But so yeah, portion of the city gets transported to this other world, and the kid that Toma was delivering the book to gets separated from his parents as a result. Toma is, of course, promising the kid that he'll return the kid to his parents. Meanwhile, Toma's editor, who's with him, is just marveling at the fantastical landscape and creatures that are just all around them. She's even taken photos of them on her phone, which is kind of funny. But we get introduced to the monster of the episode, which is clearly a golem. I mean, that's what the book called it. The book used to create the monster has golem in its title, so it's a golem monster. It's a golem monster that looks like he's got a tornado coming out of his head that's being opened by a pair of giant hands that are just kind of disembodied. Just like, cool. I like the design. I also like the fact that the monster isn't just some mindless grunt. He actually acts as a bit of exposition for what the villains are up to. Like, he's actually basically explaining to the lead character what is going on. So, that's cool. I like that. It's nice to get some actual speaking monsters again that are willing to explain stuff beyond I'm a monster. These are my personal motivations. It's like, oh, this is what's going on. I like that. But this guy wearing a blue outfit, he shows up. He's gonna do something, but then Toma gets crushed by a bunch of rocks as a result of the golem. But then the red book that Toma has had for like the whole episode, which he doesn't really fully understand that caused the rocks to just kind of fly away, and the book turns into a flaming sword, which is really cool visual. Not going to lie, I do like that look of it. That it's literally on fire, and the guy in blue is like, oh, there's no way this guy's going to be able to handle this sword. He's a normal human. He's Homo sapiens. That's what he says. And then Toma does, with a bit of struggle, manage to grab hold of the sword, which turns into a toy. Not gonna lie, it turns into the belt toy. Like, it's clearly the toy that they're going to be selling to kids. It's obvious. I don't mind it. I don't mind it that much, but it is blatantly the toy. And then so Toma ends up using the sword and its scabbard to transform into Kamen Rider Saber. And now the sword looks quite a bit cooler, but it's still very much a toy sword. It looks cool, but still toy. And also the blue guy had some scabbard of his own that he wasn't able to use because Toma used his first. And, oh, we get some fantastic visuals. Admittedly, it is done with CGI, which I had heard some complaints about before actually watching the episode without actually having any context for what was happening. And while I can kind of understand the complaints for using these fantastical CGI sequences, I like it. I really like it. I thought it was incredibly imaginative to have a setting that couldn't be replicated through practical live action effects. Like it wasn't a location you just could simply go to. It looked very, very creative. And I hope that we get to see this more and more as the series goes on, but I'm also kind of held back by the fact that, once again, Tokusatsu shows, particularly Kamen Rider shows, tend to have these over-the-top flashy bits that get used quite a bit early on and then just stop being used altogether for the most part, and that is a bit of a disappointment, but I've already said my piece on that. Let's move on. I think the CGI work looks fantastic. Still recognizable as being CG, but I applaud how imaginative it looks, and it really does help convey what is happening as much as it could. Toma does eventually defeat the monster and his editor, and he doesn't defeat his editor. His editor has been watching this whole time, along with the blue guy who's off in another direction, so those two characters don't actually encounter each other. They're just watching Toma fight the monster as a flaming swordsman. Cool. So by defeating the monster, the portion of the city that was abducted by the book returns to the city, and Toma is able to reunite the kid with his parents. And then Toma and his editor go back to his bookshop where he finishes off the manuscript and hands it to her, and she's about to head out when the blue guy decides to show up on a blue lion. And it was at this point that I couldn't help but just think, wow, that looks incredibly fake. like I get it. It's not supposed to look that realistic since it's a guy riding on a robotic-looking blue lion. Except that from the angle we were seeing it at, it looked like it was just the actor wearing one of those like half costumes where you like pull it up over your legs and it just kind of sits around your waist and makes it look like you're riding on top of some creature, like say a cowboy on top of a horse with like little legs dangling off, but your legs are clearly just the front legs of the animal. That is what it looked like. It looked ridiculous. Complete with the legs just kind of hanging off to the sides. It looked fake. It looked so incredibly fake that I could not help but laugh at it. It's like, what? Like, why couldn't he have shown up just standing there? Or hell, make the lion look, a bit flashier, make it look a bit more like he's actually riding on top of the lion instead of just wearing a half costume that makes it look like like he's riding on the lion. And that's how the episode ends. I do think that the narrator guy shows up again with his incredibly weird look, and overall, I feel that this first episode really gives me some heavy Super Sentai vibes without actually being Super Sentai, and I'm not necessarily complaining. I kind of hope that they keep going with this aesthetic, and again, I kind of hope that they keep going with the more fantastical visuals that they've implemented in this first episode, but I'm not holding out too much hope, considering that they'll probably just kind of end up dropping that by episode 10. But, so yeah, I'm definitely interested to learn more about what happened in Toma's dream sequence at the beginning of the episode, but probably won't get fully explained for a good while. good, fun first episode. I actually watched a good chunk of this first episode with Tank, who just so happened to be over, and he thought it was interesting. I don't know if he thought it was interesting enough to continue watching it, but he just doesn't really watch a whole lot of tokusatsu shows. That's really kind of my thing on Game Zilong, so he watches some, particularly the Ultra Series, but Ultra Series and Power Rangers, but I'm definitely interested in checking out more of this series. I mean, of course, because I'm a fan of tokusatsu in general, I'm going to watch the whole season. But it really kind of will be up to seeing how the show plays out to determine what I overall think of it. But I do kind of recommend giving the first episode a watch, as kind of weird as it is. So, until next time, this has been me, ProtoMet. See ya.